Today we are going to discuss about the International Labour Organization, that is nothing but ILO, under the safety, health, environment legislation topic, right? So in the legislation part, International Labour Organization is the apex body from which we are getting the guidelines to make the different acts at the national level and different rules at the state level. So whatever the rules and acts we have made, so the guidelines are given by this ILO. So let us discuss what exactly this ILO is, what are the different functions of this ILO, how much and who are the members of this ILO, and how it functions. So background of this foundation, the International Labour Organization was set on 19th April 1999. So it is easy to remember, 19th April 1999. Against the background of First World War, which caused destruction on massive scale world war, the word peace was no more in the sight and the conditions of the working class almost in all the countries were appalling. ILO was born as a result of the peace conference convened at the end of World War I at Versailles. So this is the outcome after the First World War, right? So in the 19th April 1999, there are two organizations formed. One is League of Nations and the second foundation is nothing but the ILO, that is International Labour Organization. So India is a founder member of this ILO and original signatory to the Treaty of this Peace and contributes 2.77% of the ILO budget. Right? So India is a founder member. This ILO is started in 1999. Brief history about this ILO. Between the two world wars, the ILO was an autonomous part of the League of Nations. During the World War II, and the ILO moved its headquarters to the Montreal, Canada temporarily. In 1946, when the UN organizations came into being, the ILO became the first specialist agency of these organizations. And in 1969, the organization celebrated its 50th anniversary, was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize. So it started in 1999, then it is shifted in 1946, and then it celebrated the anniversary, that is 50th anniversary in 1969, because it is formed in 1999. So after 50 years, that is in 1969, it is awarded a Nobel Peace Prize. So far, the ILO has passed up to 400 conventions and recommendations providing backbone for the labor organizations of many of the countries, including India, and has contributed immensely to human rights, social justice, and labor welfare. So the main focus of this ILO is nothing but to provide different conventions and recommendations. So we will discuss in detail what exactly these conventions and recommendations are, and it focuses on the human rights, social justice, and labor welfare. So these are the keywords from this ILO. Thought behind the foundations of ILO. In its preamble, the ILO Constitution declares that universal and lasting peace can be founded only on the basis of social justice. So the main focus or the keyword is social justice again. To achieve this, it is necessary to bring governments, employers, and trade unions together for united actions in the cause of social justice and better living conditions everywhere. So the target is social justice, and from that social justice, we have to maintain the better living conditions everywhere. For that purpose, ILO included all the different members from the governments, from the employers, and trade unions. The ILO symbolizes social justice, universal peace, and human dignity. It is founded to deal with international labor problems. The Philadelphia Declaration is the International Labour Conference held in Philadelphia in 1944 redefined the organization's aims and objectives in adopting the Declaration of the Philadelphia. It proclaims the right of all human beings to pursue both the material well-being and the spiritual development in conditions of freedom and dignity, of economic security and equal opportunity. So in Philadelphia in 1944, the aim and objective is declared by this ILO in the conference, that is to pursue both the material well-being and the spiritual development in conditions of freedom and dignity, of economic security and equal opportunities. It further states that the poverty anywhere constitutes a danger prosperity everywhere. Labor is not a commodity, and freedom of expression and of associations are essential to sustain progress. Whereas the failure of a nation to adopt the human conditions of the labor is an obstacle in the way of other nations which desires to improve the conditions in their own countries, right? So in this Philadelphia Declaration, the main thing is they have declared internationally that we have to go further, we have to grow further as far as these employers, these companies, this society is concerned. We have to grow with the help of some economic security and equal opportunities. What is the objective of this ILO? The objectives of the ILO are enunciated in the preamble to its constituent supplemented by the Article 427 of the Peace Treaty of the Versailles as well as the Philadelphia Declaration of 1944. The main objective of the ILO is to improve the conditions of life. So this is the main objective, to improve the conditions of life and work by building a comprehensive code of law and practice. Thus ILO is a standard setting body. The standard which are laid down through the joint efforts of governments, managements and the labor are realistic, solid and widely appreciated. So the standards which is written by the ILO have to maintained by the governments, managements of the different companies and the labor are realistic, solid and widely appreciated. It also has an international training institute, an International Institute of Labor Studies. The ILO engages in research and publishes wide range of labor and social matters. Now this is the main objective of this ILO, to improve the lifestyle of a labor, and for that purpose there are different actions. So this is one of the action that different international training has been given by this ILO through these international training institutes, and some labor studies, that is Institute of Labor Studies, have developed, and they have also published the research data by the ILO which are related with the labor and social matters. Then the main functions of this ILO is setting international labor standards or code in relation to the industrial safety, occupational health, labor welfare, etc., and supervising their observance, providing technical cooperation for improving social being and world economies. And third is research and labor studies and collecting and disseminating the information, right? So these are the main functions of ILO. Setting international labor standards or code, that is nothing but the conventions and recommendation relation to the industrial safety, occupational health, labor welfare, etc. Providing technical cooperation for improving social well-being and world economies. Research and labor studies and collecting and disseminating the information. So these are the major three functions of ILO: to have the conventions, then discussions, then recommendations, Then technical cooperation. So if any company or any country or any state if recommends or asks some information related to the ILO standards, related to the occupational safety, health, etc. And if there are no guidelines or a specific guidelines related to specific questions or specific problems or difficulties which are in the companies, so they can provide the help or they can extend the help after research on the particular topic, and they can give the solution for the same. International Labour Code. The body of the conventions and recommendation adopted by the International Labour Conference constitutes the International Labour Code. So the conventions and recommendations is nothing but the International Labour Codes. As on 1st January 1992, 172 conventions and 179 recommendations have been adopted by the conference. So in 1992, these are the numbers. Now we have to check what are the numbers nowadays. So 172 conventions, 179 recommendations. The International Labour Code covers an enormous range of important subjects in the labor and social fields. The most urgent problem in the time on which its first decisions were made included the promotions of the 8-hour working day, the struggle against the unemployment, maternity protections, and the working conditions of the women and the young. So we are knowing about the Factory Act, which is existing from the 1948. We are knowing about the Maharashtra Factory Rule 1963. But before that, this ILO has recommended these 8-hour working day conditions rather than the 12 hours. And there are discussions about this, the maternity protections, maternity leaves, then working conditions of women, the time of working conditions of women and young children. So after that discussion and the conventions and recommendation only, the countries have decided to have the labor or the worker who is having 18 years plus age, right? And there are different benefits like maternity benefits and other benefits have also included after the discussion of the ILO. Then some technical cooperation from this ILO includes manpower planning, choice of technology, small scale industry development, assistance in training policies and systems, occupational health and safety, and industrial relations. So nowadays, most of the countries have developed in a such a way, they are going to plan in such a way that manpower planning is not a big issue for them. Choice of technology. Now developed countries are having different choices of technologies. Nowadays, you can understand the artificial intelligence, then robotics, mechatronics, etc. are the different technologies which can be adopted by the industries depending on their investment, depending on their requirement, and depending on their choices. The technology can be adopted, and this technology information can be distributed, can be spread up with the help of the research and the publications from the ILO. Some small scale industries development. So we are also having some associations for the small scale industries at local level, at state level, and at national level also. So the guidelines are given by the ILO for forming and developing these the small scale industries. Some policies of the systems are also made by this ILO. Some guidelines are given for these policies. Policies maybe for the training policies, maybe for that induction training, maybe for that during employment, maybe after training, after employment, or if any changes are made, if any new technology is adopted by the industry, if any new machineries are adopted by the industries, or if any rectification or modification is done in the process on the machineries, then we have to adopt some training. So all these guidelines are given by the ILO. The main focus and which is of our interest is occupational health and safety. So we are going to discuss or focus more on this ILO conventions and recommendations on the occupational health and safety. That is our main objective of today's discussion. Some industrial relations and guidelines are given by this ILO. So these are some technical cooperation by this ILO. The research information which I have already discussed, that some research, some technological issues, some safety issues, some health issues are already being discussed by the ILO. Some research is going on, some experiments is going on, and some publications are distributed to the public, to the different nations, or especially who are the members of this ILO. So the papers of various aspects like labor welfare, safety, and working conditions, publications are circulated worldwide, and the worldwide statistics, annual reports, and latest trends are also published in the journals. So nowadays, this I have discussed that latest trends may be artificial intelligence, maybe mechatronics, maybe robotics, etc. So these trends can be published in the journal so that the developing countries or the countries or the companies who are not adopting these technologies can have a look what exactly this technology is, what are the benefits of this technology, how we can move forward with the help of this technological change for the safety, for our welfare, and for our good health. Then mode of functioning, the ILO accomplished its task through numerous conferences and specialized meetings. Periodic or regional conference bring together government, employer, and workers representative of specific regions to study questions of particular interest to each region. Industrial committees are permanent tripartite bodies that bring together for discussion to the international level. The social partners engage in specific sectors of economic activity. The ILO also functions in multidisciplinary areas in collaboration with other agencies of the UN systems. So there are different meetings, there are different conferences which are organized by this ILO, and in that conferences and meetings, the government representatives, the employer representatives, the worker representatives are participated, and after rigorous discussions, some conclusions, some results have made, and on the basis of that result and discussions, some conventions or some recommendation can be modified or rectified as per their need and discussion. Then the structure of ILO. ILO is a tripartite organization with worker and employer representative taking part in its work on an equal footing with governments. Its secretariat is based in Geneva, Switzerland. The ILO accomplishes its task through the three main bodies, namely International Labour Conference, the governing body, and the International Labour Office. So the main structure of this ILO consisting of these three main elements, that is International Labour Conference, the governing body, and the International Labour Office. So the Secretariat Office is based in the Geneva, and there are different members of this ILO. So the membership of this ILO, the constitution of this ILO provides simple rules of the procedures regarding the admission of a state to the membership of ILO. It provides that those states who were members of ILO on 1st November 1945 and any original member of the UN can become the member of ILO. So India is one of the founder member from this date, and some UN member can also participate as a member or register as a member. By accepting the obligations of this constitution, other states can also become the members of ILO by vote conquered by 2/3 of the delegates attending the session, including 2/3 of the government delegates presenting for voting. So 2/3 is the main criteria for membership or accepting the membership. Then mode of representations in ILC, that is in the International Labour Conference. Each member state is represented by the two government delegates and an employer delegate and a worker delegate, all accompanied by the advisors if they wish. So employer delegate is there, government delegate is there, and worker delegate is there, right? So the government delegates to ILC are mostly ministers, diplomats, and officials subject to the government instructions. Under the constitution of this ILO, employees and workers delegates are nominated by the governments in agreement with the relevant industrial organizations. Every delegate has same rights. Workers and employer delegates have been voted against their government representatives or against each other. So everyone has rights to discuss, rights to share their views about the particular task, about the particular functions, about the particular safety or health or welfare issues. So that may be from the workers representatives, that may be from the employers delegates, or that may be from the government representative. Each can express himself freely and vote as he wishes. This diversity of viewpoint does not prevent decisions from being adopted by the large majority, or in many cases even unanimously. So the whatever the majority has decided, the discussions and the results, on the basis of that the conclusion is made, and on the basis of this result and discussion and on the basis of this large majority, these conventions are modified into the recommendations, and that is nothing but the rectifications in the conventions. Representation in governing body. The governing body is an executive council of ILO and is elected every 3 years at the conference. So at the International Labour Conference, this governing body is elected every 3 years. The governing body, like the conference, is tripartite. So it comprises 56 members, 28 representing governments, 14 representing workers, and 14 representing employers. So 28 government delegates, 14 workers representative, and 14 employers representative. So total 56 members are there in the governing body. Of the 28 government seats, 10 are held by the state of chief industrial importance, and all other members are delegates of the other governments. India is one of the 10 states of the chief industrial importance. So out of these 56, 28 are government representative, and out of these 28 again, 10 are held by the chief industrial importance. So we, that is India, is one of the 10 states of this chief industrial importance. It elects one president and two vice presidents among themselves. President is a government representative by convention. The office, that is International Labour Office in Geneva, is the permanent secretariat of the ILO. There are regional offices for Asia and Pacific, Latin America, Africa, and the Arab states and Europe. So there are different offices. The main office is at Geneva. The Director General, that is DG of ILO, is the chief executive of this office. The DG is appointed by the governing body, and he or she also acts as a Secretary General of the conference. He is appointed for 10 years and his term may be extended by the governing body. So the governing body tenure or the term is for 3 years, and for DG it is for 10 years. So DG is elected by the governing body members. The staff of the office is appointed by the DG, is assisted by the 2 deputy director generals, 6 assistant director generals, 1 director of the International Institutes of the Labor Studies, and 1 director of the International Center of the Advanced Technical and Vocational Trainings. So there are different representatives from different fields. So in the under the DG, so DG is the main authority. Under DG there are 2 deputy DG, then 6 assistant DG, and 1 director of the International Institute of Labor Studies, 1 director of the International Center of Advanced Technical and Vocational Training. So these 2 directors, then these 6 assistant directors and 2 deputy directors. So this is the main structure of this DG office, that is International Labour Office. Advisors, chief of divisions and other staff is drawn from the several nations. So there are different advisors and chief of divisions from various countries, that is nothing but the nations. So this is the structure or the flow chart that represents the governing body or executive councils and international labor organizations. So whatever we have discussed up till now, all the things are in this slide. That is government, managements and trade union from each member country that gives or constitutes the International Labour Conference or the International Parliament of the Labour that gives the regional conferences and that forms the governing body or the executive council. So total 56 member, we have already discussed about these things in detail, and international labor offices or the secretaries having panels of experts, industrial committees and regional offices. Some international institutes of labor studies and international training institutes. So we have already discussed, this is the one of the director, this is another director. There are some representatives like assistant directors and deputy directors. Now the functions of this International Labour Conference is called as International Parliament of Labour. Has several main tasks. The first task is to work out and adopt international labor standards in the form of conventions and recommendations. So this is the first functions of this ILO. Accepting this or finalizing these conventions and recommendations of ILO. Secondly, the conference approves the work programs and budget for the organizations. So if in the annum or in the year there are maybe some different work programs, so approval of these work programs and approval of this budget of the organizations is another functions of this ILC. And third is the conference acts as a forum where social and labor questions of global importance are discussed freely as themes of endeavor for the futures. In addition, the conference also passes resolutions which provides guidelines for the ILO general policy and future activities. Make amendments to the constitution of the ILO. So the main function is to accept these international labor standards, that is in form of conventions and recommendations. Then approval of the programs and approval of the budget is the main second function. Third is the social labor questions and solving the some important issues which are global importance. And then the conference also passes resolutions and provide the guidelines. And if after the providing guidelines, after the passing the evaluation, so if in case, if in feedback, if they are recommended some valid recommendations, valid rectifications are provided by some countries or the advisor, then again they can change their wordings in the conventions, and that is called as recommendations. So recommendation can be finalized after the input from the various sources like advisors of different nations or the government representatives or employer representative or some chief executive importance representatives. Then the function of the governing body, it is the hub of the wheel around which all ILO activities resolve. It coordinates work of the organizations. In the governing bodies, there are main persons who are having the majority of the authorities. The governing body establishes the agenda for the conference and other meetings, takes note of their decisions, and decides on the consequent actions to be taken. It directs the activities of the International Labour Office. So it can give the direction to international labor offices. It can decide the agenda, the different points which can be discussed in the conference or different international meetings, etc. They can appoint Director General of the office. Governing body is going to appoint this DG, then scrutinize the budget. It follows up the implementation by the member states of the conventions and recommendations adopted by the conference. It fixes the dates, duration, and agenda of the regional conference. So all this discussion can be decided and the final decision is made through this governing body members. So whatever the dates you have decided, the duration, the agendas, the budget, the working programs, the DGs, the different appointments of DG, assistant DG, then deputy DG, some directors, etc. All these things are decided by these governing body members. Then the functions of secretariat: to prepare documents on the items of this agenda of the conference, formulation and registering process for the conventions and recommendations, to assist the governments in framing legislation on the basis of decisions of the ILC, to carry out the functions in connection with the observance of the conventions, to bring out the publications dealing with the industrial labor problems of international interest, to collect and distribute the information of ILO and social problems. So whatever the decisions have made by the governing body, whatever the scrutiny committee from this governing body has decided, so whatever that may be the international conference publication, that may be a research paper, that may be a conventions, that may be a recommendations. So whatever is decided by the governing body through the conference, through the conferences, through the meetings, etc. So all these documents have been made by this secretariat office. So these documents making is the responsibility of the secretary's office. Then they are going to cross check these documents word by word, and then after finalizing these documents, again the governing body is going to finalize these documents. What is conventions and recommendations? So each convention is a legal instrument regulating some aspects of labor administrations, social welfare, or human rights. So its ratifications involves a dual obligations for a member state. It is both a formal commitment to apply the provisions of these conventions and an indication of the willingness to accept the measure of the international supervisions. So convention is the important factor as far as these ILO standards are concerned, and then after conventions, a recommendation can be there. So a recommendation is similar to a convention, except that it is not a subject to ratification and provides more specific guidelines. Recommendation often, but not always, supplement conventions. So the main document is conventions. So this convention is the outcome of the international level meetings, international level conferences, a rigorous discussion from the various members of this ILO, and after that this convention is made. And after publishing these conventions, distributing these details of these conventions to the various nations, to the UN members, to the globe, then if other things are added, some inputs are added for these conventions, and if all the inputs are valid, then that inputs are included in that conventions, and that is going to ratify. So ratification can be done in the convention, and that is nothing but the recommendations. So recommendation is the simple word which we normally know the meaning of this recommendation. So some recommendations is given by the different advisors, different representatives from the government, employers, or worker representative. And if these recommendations are valid, then with reference to that specific conventions, some ratifications, some rectifications, some changes have made in that convention, some additions are made in the conventions, and that becomes recommendations. So this is the basic concept of this convention and recommendations. There is a fundamental difference between convention and recommendation. Conventions are obligations creating instruments. In other words, once the conventions are ratified by the member state, they become binding international obligations, whereas recommendations essentially guide national actions and do not create international obligations. So convention is a international obligation that should be followed by this particular nations and that members. But recommendations are essentially guide nations, national actions, and do not create international obligation. It is not a international obligations. Recommendation is not international obligations. These are the suggestions, recommendations given by the different advisors or the representative from the workers, employers, or government. A convention is clearly the model type of international regulation, or what may be called as precise model codes. So convention is basically a model or precise model codes, facilitating drafting of uniform legislations. So from this convention, basically we are forming the different legislations, we are forming the different acts and rules in the different countries. However, when the subject or aspect of it deals with the not considered suitable or appropriate at the time for convention, the conference adopts a recommendations. Now, after finalizing these conventions, if in case in the international conference or in the international meetings or in international discussions, if they don't found that it is not suitable for that particular country, it is not suitable for all the countries, then they can go for the recommendations, and this recommendation can be adopted by the other countries or the members of this ILO. Thus, recommendations acts as a forerunner to a convention and in fact often paves the way of subsequent adoption of the conventions. So it is nothing but the supplement of this convention. Further, a recommendation may play a supplementary role by spelling out the precise or detailed methods of application on the basic rules or principles ensured in a conventions. Again, there may be areas, for example, social security, industrial relations, etc. So where circumstances and practical vary so widely from one country to another that binding international commitments are out of the questions and adoptions of the recommendations is the only alternative. So depending on the topic, depending on the valid suggestions and depending on the inputs from various sources, recommendation can be adopted. Thus, though a recommendation does not create a binding obligation, because already we have discussed that it is not a international obligation, recommendation is not international obligation, yet it is no way an inferior form of standard, but it is again a form of standard. On the other hand, it serves as an extensive variety of functions and fulfill a different purpose. So recommendation may be a new change, some supplementary change or some rectification in the conventions likewise, but it is not an international obligations. But convention is a international obligations. Subject matters, ILO conventions covers a wide field of social problems, including basic human right matters such as freedom of association, abolitions of forced labor, elimination of discrimination in employment, minimum age for employment on work, minimum wages, labor administration, industrial relations, employment policy, working conditions, social security, occupational safety and health, and employment at sea. So these are the different points which are already included in our Factory Act 1948, and all these points are recommended by the international labor organizations, and that is why these points are covered under the Factory Act, because Factory Act is a guidelines which is made at national level from India, right? So these guidelines are given by the international labor organizations, and after these guidelines, the India can prepare these sections like acts. So one of the example is Factory Act. So Factory Act 1948 is made on the basis of some different guidelines which are given by these international labor organizations. So all these points are covered under the Factory Act, and some of or most of the points are covered under the Maharashtra Factory Rule 1963. So this is again one of the example that International Labor Organization, that is ILO, suggests some points, and on the basis of these guidelines, Factory Act 1948 is made, and on the basis of guidelines from the Factory Act 1948, from the sections of this 1948, the state government has made some guidelines that is called as rules, and one of the rules is Maharashtra Factory Rule 1963. So there are different acts and different rules have been made by the central government and state governments, and the main guidelines at international level is given by this ILO. So steps or process of setting these standards, that is nothing but the formulation of these standards, adaptations of this standard, registration for the standards, implementation of the standards, and supervision of the standards. So we have to form these standards through these international conferences, international labor conferences, or international labor meetings, and then after finalizing, after the majority of the members, we have to finalize these standards, and then only it can be accepted or adopted by the UN member or the members of this ILO. So after adaptation, after finalization, after finalizing by the governing body of this ILO, they can register these for standards as conventions, and after these conventions or after publishing these conventions, these members are having binding to implement these all the standards, and after implementations to the national level, after implementations to the state level, after implementation to the local level, and after inputs or feedback from the local level or state level or national level, then ILO can supervise all these activities, that what are the changes have been made after implementing these particular standards. So in case of any loopholes are there, in case of any scope of improvement is there, and on the basis of the feedbacks, on the basis of inputs from the different levels, from the different representative, they can made again a standard as a recommendations, right? So these are the different steps of the setting standards by the ILO. Then the formulation of the standards. The governing body decides the agenda of the International Labour Conference on the basis of suggestions made by the government and by the employment worker organizations, or by the ILO's other deliberative bodies. Proposals from other sources are also taken into account. And however, once the agenda is settled down, it is for the International Labour Office, the secretariat of the organization, to examine the subjects proposed for the submission of to the conference and to initiate the documentary preparations. So all these representatives give their inputs to the ILO, and ILO again send these all documents or the inputs to the secretariat office. So secretariat office made all these documents on the paper, and they again send to the ILO DG or the director or deputy director or assistant director, and then final authority or the decision is made by the DG of this governing body, and then they can propose all these things in a conference for the members of this ILO, and then after finalizing these things they can make it public to the conference, right? So the office carries out preparatory technical study of the questions under the consideration in a thorough and objective manner, provides fullest preliminary consideration to the government, and safeguards the continuity of the work of the conference. Then the conference discussed the questions placed on its agenda at 2 succeeding sessions with a view of the adaptations of the international regulations. Subjects so placed on the agenda are dealt with the usually under the double discussion procedure in cases of special urgency or where other special circumstances exist. The governing body may decide by 3/5 majority on a single discussion. Double discussion procedure prevents approval of badly or hastily drafted text where a subject has been placed on the agenda for a double discussion. The office circulates a preliminary report setting out the law and practice relating to the subject in the different countries and other relevant information, together with the questionnaires, with a view to eliciting the views of the members state on the desirability of adopting the international regulations and their form and scope. So this is the rigorous process where the different points, different questions and their solutions have been discussed in the different meetings. More discussions or double discussion may required in some of the cases, and 3/5 of the is the main key where the majority is finalized, and on the basis of that only the regulations can be adopted by this ILO. On the basis of the replies and comments received from the state, And from employers and worker organization, the office prepares a further report indicating the principal questions that required consideration by the conference. This report is communicated to the member state and submitted to the conference of discussion. The conclusions are reached by the conference at its first discussion, form the basis of this preliminary draft text, the conventions and recommendations drawn up by the office and circulated for the comments among the member states. So already we have discussed that after finalizing these conventions or the standard, the inputs can be accepted from the various sources like employer, workers, or the government officials. And then on the basis of that, the ILO governing body can conclude these things and then standard can be adopted. On the basis of these comments, the office draws up a final reporting content containing the draft text to the conventions and recommendations. So initially, the temporary drafting of this report has made, and after the discussion, after the inputs, after the discussion and the results and conclusions, then only these conventions and recommendations have been made. So this is before publishing. All these things can be cross-checked by each and every member of this ILO and from the Secretariat Office, from the governing body members for the final discussion and publish. Then registration of the standards. Once the conventions is adopted, 2 copies of it are authenticated by the president of the conference and the DG of the ILO. One of them is deposited in the archives of this ILO and other is registered with the Secretary General of the United Nations. The Director General also furnishes every member state with a certified copy of it. The omissions of the signature by member state, which normally forms an invariable part of the multilateral treaty making process, is perhaps designed to remove the delay that usually occurs in the ratification of general multilateral treaties which adopt to the dual procedure of signature and ratifications. So rather than giving the importance to the signature, they have made 2 copies, and one of the copies with the president of that conference and second copy is with the DG of the ILO, and then they can publish these copies with the certified copies for the ILO members and to the globe. So this implementation of the standard setting process does not stop with the adoption of conventions and recommendation. Conventions have no automatic binding force but only came into force in any member state through an act of the ratifications by the state. However, in the case of both conventions and recommendations, member states are obliged to bring the text before the authority or authorities within whose competence the matter lies for the enactment of the legislation or other actions within a period of 12 to 18 months of the adaptations. So after adopting this standard, after publishing these standards, normally the main ILO members have to implement all these things within 12 to 18 months of the publishing date. In the case of conventions, if the competent authority consents, the member government communicates the fact to the DG, who registers the rectifications and notifies to the UN members and member states. Even when a member state votes against the adoptions of convention, it is still under an obligation to place it before an appropriate authority of the rectifications. So if in any of member or ILO member or UN member or member state have some issues, have some problems for accepting or implementing these particular conventions or recommendations, but still that convention is maybe going to adopt by the other members. So if that suggestions or some changes or some improvement can be done in that particular conventions or recommendations, then that can be decided in the next meeting or next conference. And in case if the issue is very urgent, then that can be decided by this governing body members. Then the supervision of the standards. It is well known fact that the legislation will prove ineffective unless there is appropriate machinery for the supervision of its implementations. States are, of course, expected to carry out their obligations in the good faith, though setting off for international supervisory machinery involves problems of respect of national sovereignty. The frames of this constitution of ILO took the bold step of including the constitution itself provision for supervision of the application of the ratified conventions. So ILO itself deciding for the supervision of this implementation of these ILO conventions. Mainly they are focusing on the conventions, and then if the supplementary or the recommendations is also important, then they are also going for the supervision of these recommendations. A member is required to make an annual report to the ILO on the measures it has to give effect to the provisions of the conventions, which is it is a party. In 1926, the conference recommended that each session of the conference should appoint a special committee to examine these summaries of the reports and envisage the appointment by the governing body of a committee of experts entrusted with the advanced examination of these reports. The two committees, which originated as an experiment, have met since then on annual basis and have become integral features of these organizations. So for this, from 1926, already these committees are appointed. That is nothing but a committee of experts, and now it is an integral part of governing body. In 1977, system was changed again to detailed reporting at 2 yearly or 4 yearly intervals according to the subject matter of the conventions, with the possibility of more frequent report depending upon the nature of any problems of the implementations. So there are some conventions and recommendations. So we can have the views on the conventions, number of conventions and recommendations. So it is the data of 1987. Now we have to check the current data from the ILO side. So the main focus is of the subjects, that is basic human rights, having some conventions and recommendations, then employment policies, human development, industrial relations, then general conditions of employment, occupational safety, health and welfare, children's and young persons, women, then older workers, then social security, migrant workers, etc. So there are different conventions and recommendations, then nursing personnel, then seafarers, then offshore industrial activities, then indigenous and tribal populations, dock worker, plantations, labor administration, and social policies. So there are various subjects, various topics on which the conventions and recommendations have been made. So near about 179 conventions and 169 recommendations have been made by this ILO on these topics, and it is in the 1987. Now we have to change this data, because in the 2020 we have to check the number of conventions and recommendations made by this ILO. So we will check it at the end. Then conventions and recommendations relevant to the safety and health. Now this is the one of the topic. There are various topics. In the previous slide we have shown that there are 18 topics or the field on which 179 conventions and 169 recommendations have been made. But as far as this safety and health is concerned, so near about 155 conventions and 164 recommendations have been made by this ILO in 1981 on the basis of this occupational safety and health, right? So more than 150 conventions and recommendations have been made. So main focus is on the occupational safety and health. So you can understand these are the numbers, that is total numbers 179 and 169. Out of that, the OSH focus is 150 plus, right? And likewise this data is there, that is in 1985, 88, 1993, near about 174 and 181. So the main subject is occupational safety and again this is the specific subject, that is safety and health in construction, then safety and health in chemicals, and preventions of major industrial accidents. So nowadays we are knowing that government is focusing on the construction field, government is focusing on the chemical field, and government is focusing on the major accidents. The reason behind this focus is the number of fatalities in case of these accidents which are happen in these fields like construction chemicals and MH units, right? So this is the labor welfare, that is in resolution 1947. ILO defined labor welfare as such services and facilities and amenities as adequate canteens, rest and recreation facilities, arrangements for travels to and from work, and the recommendations of workers employed at a distance from their houses, and such other services, amenities, facilities, and contribute to improve the conditions under which workers are employed. So the facilities which is provided by these companies, now that may be the bus facility, that may be the canteen facility, that may be the sports facility or recreation facility, recreation centers, and some restrooms, etc. So all these facilities are suggested by the ILO, and then it is adopted by the labor welfare officers and offices, and then it is implemented in the Factory Act and other rules. So they are called as intramural and extramural facilities. Various conventions and recommendations about this labor welfare. ILO conventions 25 concerns sickness, insurance and medical facilities to be provided to an insured person, while conventions 103 deals with the maternity protection. In its recommendations number 69, it sets a certain norms for medical care. It also emphasized that the need for the preventive care. It made a recommendation in respect of the worker involved in jobs with special risk, number 97, and for occupational health services, number 112. So these are the different numbers which are focusing on the different issues. So like 25 number on the sickness insurance and medical facilities, 103 on the maternity protection, then 69 on the medical care, then the special risk 97, and the health services or occupational health services number 112. So whatever the rules made or whatever the sections made under the acts and rules made under the different rules are the main guidelines from these ILO conventions and recommendations only. So human charter, there are conventions also called as fundamentals of human rights conventions, forced labor conventions, that is 29, abolition of forced labor conventions 105, equal remuneration convention 100, discrimination conventions 111, freedom of association and protection of right to be organized convention number 87. So these are the different conventions and their number which are mainly related to the human rights. So this is one of the point included in this topic, that conventions, recommendations, ILO structures, ILO members, their functions, different conventions and recommendations for occupational safety and health, and some conventions and recommendations related to the human rights and welfare. So these are the examples of these worst forms of child labor conventions 182 and minimum age conventions 138. So the first four are ratified and remaining four yet to be ratified by the India. So these 29, 105, 100 and 111 are ratified by the India. Impact on ILO on labor laws in India. The approach of India with regard to the ILO has always been positive. ILO instruments have provided guidelines and useful framework for the evolution of these legislative and administrative measures for the protection and advancement of this interest of labor, to the extent of the influence of the ILO conventions as standard for the reference for labor legislation and practices in India rather than is legally binding norms has been significant. So India is always positive as far as this ILO guidelines, ILO standards or the ILO conventions recommendations are given by this ILO body. India has been careful in ratifying these conventions. It has always been the practice in India that we ratify conventions when we are fully satisfied that our laws and practices are in conformity with the relevant ILO conventions. We have ratified so far 39 conventions which is much better than the positions of other countries. So in the mid 19th century, the absence of any state control organization of worker, the employers were less concerned with the needs of their employees and conditions were unsatisfactory. The situation led to the enactment of these different acts and rules. So whatever I have discussed, that there are different guidelines, different conventions and recommendations by this ILO, and on the basis of these conventions and recommendations by this ILO, India has made different acts. So these are the different acts: the Factor Act 1881, then 1934, and then 1948. So actually the ILO is formed in 1999. So before that we have already made the Factor Act, that is 1881. But after the guidelines by this ILO, we have made changes in the acts in 1934, then 1948, and now the main amendments are in the 1987. Right? The Workmen Compensation Act in 1923, then Mines Act 1923, the Trade Union Act 1926, Trade Dispute Act 1929, Payment of Wages Act 1936, Maternity Benefit Act 1939, Weekly Holidays Act 1942, Industrial Dispute Act 1947, the Industrial Employment Standing Order Act 1946. So all these acts except the Factory Act are made after the ILO recommendations, ILO guidelines, that is after 1999. The success of labor legislation in India must be attributed to the ILO, as the guideline issued by the ILO form the principles on which these legislations were drawn. Most of the labor legislation in India is pre-constitutional. By observing the passage of labor legislation in India through the various amendments and enactments, it is evident that the ILO did have a great impact on the labor laws in India. So even though we have made some acts, we have made some sections in the India or in the country, after the ILO guidelines or after the ILO conventions and recommendations, we have made majority of the changes in our laws. After the formation of this ILO, Factory Act was amended and therefore repealed, resulting in the promulgations of the Factory Act 1934. So I have already discussed that. So after 1881, the main changes or the main amendments are made in the Factory Act in 1934, then in 1948, and then in 1987. It makes the provision for safety, health, and hygiene of the workers and special provisions for women and juvenile workers. It also provides child labor. It limits the work of child in factories, including the seasonal ones. The concept of fundamental right was introduced in the Indian constitutions. So we have discussed the different concepts, like what exactly the ILO is, what is the structure of ILO is, what are the functions of ILO, who are the members of ILO, what are the designation under the ILO, what is meant by governing body, then what is meant by secretariat office, then what is meant by international labor conferences, what is meant by conventions, what is meant by recommendations, and what are the impacts on our Indian laws from these conventions and recommendations of this ILO, right? So these are the basic concepts, some ideas, and the history of these international labor organizations. Now, in this second part, we are going to focus on the conventions which are concerned with the occupational safety and health, right? So this is one of the example. So this conventions 155, and it is in the 1981. So this is related to the occupational safety and health and of the working environment. So this is one of the example, that is convention 155. The policy referred to in of this convention shall take account of the following main spheres of these actions, and so far as they affect occupational safety and health and working environment. So the main parameters or the points included in this convention 155 are design, testing, choice, substitution, installation, arrangement, use and maintenance of the material elements of the work, that is workplaces, working environment, tools, machinery, equipment, chemical, physical and biological substances and agents, work processes. So these are the different elements included in the first point. So design, testing, choice, substitution, installation, agreements, use, etc. of the work. So workplaces and working environment is the major concern. The second thing is relationship between the material elements of work and the persons who carry out the supervise the work. The adaptation of machinery, equipment, working time, organization of work and work process to the physical and mental capacities of the work. So these are the different factors included in this convention 155, that adaptations of the material element, then the persons who are engaging this task, that is supervision, then the adaptations of different machinery, equipment, working time, that working time is of 8 hours in a day or 48 hours in a week. Likewise, then organizations of work and work processes. So physical as well as mental capacities of the work are the major concern in the second point of this convention 155. Then training, including necessary for the training, qualifications and motivations of the persons involved in one capacity or another in the achievements of adequate levels of safety and health. So as far as this safety and health is concerned, we have to provide some training, that may be for the new job, that may be for the new employee, that may be for the work permit systems, that may be for the safety training, that may be as a mock drill, that may be as a hands-on practice for new machinery or for new work or for the extension of any particular work. So there are different or varieties of training that should be provided as far as the safety and health is concerned. Then qualification of that particular employer, qualification of that particular employee or the worker should be checked, because some of the facilities, some of the works have needed a specific qualification. Say for example, as a safety officer, if you want to work as a qualified safety officer, then that government says that minimum 2 years experience is required, plus some diploma, that is advanced diploma or postgraduate diploma or post diploma in industrial safety is required after graduation in engineering or post graduation in science. So that is one of the example where safety officer's qualification is specified in the section 40B of Factory Act. Now, if the qualified person is there, if the trainings are completed, and after that particular work, some motivation should be there. So that motivation may be in terms of money, that may be in terms of some appreciations, in some terms of some awards or rewards, right? So these are the things which are covered under this third point. Then communication and cooperation at the levels of the working groups and the undertaking and all the other appropriate levels up to and including the national level. So some communication should be made from the, that may be top to bottom, that may be from bottom to top, that may be parallel communication or the same level communication. So some communication is from GM, MD to different managers, that may be from different managers to workers or helpers, and vice versa case. So some suggestions may be from the workers or helpers to the managers, and that may be to the GM or MD, right? So cooperation should be there and communication should be there. Then and then only that particular task can be completed within time and with great efficiency. The protection of the workers and their representative from disciplinary measures as a result of the actions properly taken by them in conformity with the policies referred to in our Article 4 of these conventions. So in the protection of the worker, some steps should be adopted. Some representatives from the workers, some represented from the manager level, some represented from the different sections should be made. That is nothing but a safety committee should be made, and in the discussion some disciplinary measures as a result action properly should be taken. So with the help of this, that convention 155, the main focus is on the occupational safety and health and of the working environment. So these are the key points or the keywords as far as this convention 155 is concerned. Then in convention 161, it is focusing on the occupational health and services. So in the previous section or in the previous convention 155, it is focusing on the general OSH and working environment. Now this 161 focusing on the occupational health and services, right? So this article described the different points like identification and assessment of the risk from health hazards in the workplaces. Then surveillance of the factors in the work environment and working practices which may affect workers' health, including sanitary installations, canteens, and housing where these facilities are provided by the employer. Advice on planning and organizations of work, including the design of workplace, on the choice, maintenance, and conditions of machinery and the equipments, and on the substances used in the work. So whatever the substances used in the work, whatever the workplaces are designed for that particular work, whatever the planning or organization of this work, the maintenance conditions, machinery conditions, etc., we have to take care as far as this health or occupational health is concerned. Then participation in the development of programs for the improvement of the work practices as well as testing and evaluation of the health aspects of new equipments. So if any new equipment is added in your industry, in your section, then we have to do some test which is related to the health. So that may be the some new substances which can be used in that particular new equipment. That may be a laboratory equipment, that may be a testing equipment. So some equipments or some chemicals should be studied, and on the basis of their MSDs and some properties, we must go through the testing part, right? Then advice on occupational health, safety and hygiene, and on ergonomics and individual and collective protective equipments. So as far as these machineries, this work environment, some new machineries or the trainings are concerned, we have to advise some occupational health, safety and hygiene prospects and as well as the ergonomics prospects. So maybe in the new machineries or in the modifications or after modifications in working environment or in the practices, there are some there might be some questions or some problems related to the health, related to the gestures, postures, that is nothing but the ergonomics, and that may be some industrial hygiene points, that may be some safety aspects. So we can advise our points which are related to this health, safety and hygiene or ergonomics to the safety committee, to the manager or to the safety officer. Surveillance of workers' health in relation to the workers, then promoting the adaptations of the work to the workers. So we have to adopt some policies, and after adaptations of these policies, which may be the guidelines by the safety officers or safety committee or some managers or supervisors, then some promotion can be made in that adaptations of this worker. Then contribution to measures of vocational rehabilitations. So there may be a case of rehabilitation center, that may be the requirement of the worker, and we must provide this rehabilitation facilities. Then collaboration in providing information, training, education in the field of occupation, health and hygiene and ergonomics. So we have already discussed these points. So this is the point where they need the collaboration in providing these informations. So some trainings and some educations should be provided for the occupational health, for the hygiene and for the ergonomics. So nowadays we are providing the education which is related to the health, and that is especially for the COVID-19 situations. So normally we called it as SMS. So we are providing the educations to use that sanitizer, then maintaining that social distancing, and we must use the mask in the premises or in the industry as well as in the um, public places where the mask is needed. So normally we are going to provide, we should provide some trainings, some education as per as our requirement is concerned. And that requirement should be on the health and hygiene and ergonomics aspects. So that guidelines are given under this Convention 161. Organizing of first aid and emergency treatment. So first aid boxes, first aid materials, first aid training is essential part of the any type of organizations, and some emergency treatments that may be sophisticated equipment, that may be some training part, that may be some physical or some equipments or instrument part. So whatever may be the part, some emergencies treatment or first aid treatment are essential. Some first aid trainer or the trainer of this emergency treatment should be provided in your company, and some employees should be gone through this training for handling these emergency situations. Then participation in analysis of occupational accidents and occupational diseases. So what are the occupational accidents? What are the occupational diseases? What are the notifiable diseases? What is meant by notifiable diseases under the Schedule of Factory Act? We should know all these diseases. We should know what are the root causes of these diseases and which disease can be possible in our premises, in our industry, and analysis of that particular disease should be made by the industry, made by the expertise, and that participation of this analysis of a particular disease is needed as far as this conventions 161 is concerned. Then convention 162 is focusing on the asbestos, right? So asbestosis is one of the occupational disease, one of the notifiable disease, so which is also mentioned in the occupational disease or in the notifiable disease list of schedule in the Fact Act 1948. So that is why it is a major concern, and the asbestosis is caused due to the asbestos material, and that is why asbestos is banned in many of the countries. Only some of the countries are permitting the wet process for the asbestosis, but most of the countries are banning this asbestos material for processing or for using in some of the materials. The main reason of this part is because the asbestos may be formed in as a suspended particles, and due to the suspended particles that can be inhaled by the persons, by the employees in the respiratory tract, in the respiratory systems, and asbestos can directly go to the lungs, and that deposition of the asbestos is increased if you are working in the same environment of that asbestos. So deposition of this asbestos in the lungs through this respiratory systems. So due to that, respiratory diseases can be possible, and that respiratory disease due to the asbestos is called as asbestosis, and that is why these asbestos fibers or respirable asbestos fibers are should be avoided or banned in most of the countries. And this convention 162 is focusing on this asbestos material. So definition of the asbestos, what exactly this asbestos is, then what is meant by asbestos dust, then airborne asbestos dust, then respirable asbestos fiber. So this is main part as far as this asbestosis is concerned, and the exposure to asbestos. So all these definitions are covered under this convention 162. So we must know the respirable asbestos fibers and the exposure time. Then national laws, their enforcement, system of inspection, then responsibilities of the employers and the workers are prescribed in these conventions. Then protective measures for this asbestos include engineering control, then workplace hygiene, substitution of the harmless process, prohibition of this crocidolite and spraying of asbestos, then labeling of container, exposure limits, respiratory equipment, special protective clothing, demolition work by authorized persons, washing and bathing facility, safe disposal, preservation of record, medical examination, notification of diseases, education and training. All these points are included as a protective measures in these conventions. So normally nowadays they have recommended, that is ILO is recommended, if you want to use, if it is essential to use this asbestos, then you should adopt the wet process, that is spraying of water, and then you can use this asbestos, because after spraying of water on the asbestos, that asbestos fibers can be settled down, and then the possibilities of this respirable asbestos fibers going into the lungs is decreasing, or it can be avoided. So only one point is there, that you can opt for the spraying of water or the wet process for this asbestos fibers. Otherwise, if any substitute is there instead of this asbestos, then you can adopt that substitute rather than this asbestos. Then supplementing above conventions, recommendations was adopted in 24/6/1966, which includes control of TW limits. So time weighted average limits. So in the previous case, that is in previous convention, it is given that what is meant by these different concepts of this asbestos, then some national laws and enforcements and some protective measures are given. But in the recommendation, a specific point is given, that is time weighted average limits. Then maintenance, how to maintain that asbestos equipments or machineries which are used in the process. Then some measurement, how to measure that asbestos fibers or asbestos dust, etc. Then how to go for that sampling of these exposure levels, segregation of these workplaces, and use of control equipments. So these are the different points which may not covered in the convention, then they have adopted in the recommendations, and that is why the recommendations are important. So some of the inputs or the feedback from various countries or the representatives have given, and all these inputs are valid, and that is why asbestos TWA limits, then how to control that asbestos, how to take the sample of this asbestos, how to do the analysis of this asbestos, how to control this asbestos. All these things are given under these recommendations under the convention 162, and recommendation number is 172. Then convention 170, that is recommendation 177 of 1990, focusing on the safety in the use of chemicals. So the title or the name of that particular convention itself suggests that what exactly it may include in that convention, right? So it includes evaluating the chemicals for their hazards. So whatever the hazards presents due to that particular chemical, then providing the information of chemical hazards from suppliers to employers and to the workers. So this information is very essential, that is of the chemical hazards from the suppliers, and that information should be given to the employers and to the workers through the employers. Establishing the principle and cooperation to use this chemical safely, and that is why material safety data sheet should be given by the manufacturer, by the supplier, to the employer and to the worker, because on the basis of this material safety data sheet we can understand what are the physical chemical properties, what are the hazards involved in that with the help of this with concern with that chemicals. That may be a fire hazard, that may be a chemical hazard, that may be a mechanical hazard, that may be a fire hazard, that may be a explosion hazard, whatever hazards that is related to that particular chemical. Then what are the threshold quantities for that particular chemical storage, for the handling of that particular chemical, etc. All these things should be given in that MSDS as well as on the labels of that particular chemical packings. So that label can indicate the UN classification, United Nations classifications, some UN symbols, say for that is skeleton symbol, that may be crossbones, that may be a flame, that may be a exploding bomb, that may be a corrosive symbol, etc. So that symbols, that UN number and other things can be gives us the idea what type of or which type of chemical is this and how to handle that chemicals. The convention provides for classification systems, labeling, marking of chemicals to identify the hazards, MSDS, responsibility of suppliers, employers and exporting states, and duties and rights of workers. Then employers' responsibilities include identification of chemicals, safe transfer of chemicals, control of exposures and operations, safe disposal and information, training and cooperation to workers, etc. The recommendation applies in conjunction with the convention and prescribes the details of classification of chemicals. Now in the convention, the classification of the system is given, but the classification of chemicals haven't given. That is why in the recommendations, classification of chemicals is included. Then labeling and marking is improved in the recommendations. Chemical safety data sheet is improved. Then monitoring of exposures, operation and control workplaces, medical surveillance, first aid procedures, emergency techniques, emergency provisions, emergency trainings, then cooperation amongst the employers, workers and suppliers, and right of workers is included in the recommendations. So these are the points which are included in the convention part, and in the recommendations some points are added. So this convention 170 focusing on the safety in the use of chemicals at work. Then convention 167, it focusing on the safety and health in construction. So this is focusing on the construction industry. Workers safety, then safety of workplaces. All appropriate precautions shall be taken to ensure that all workers are safe and without risk of injury to the safety and health of workers. Safe means of access to and egress. So entry and exits should be safe. All the workers should be safe. All the working environment or the working guidelines are having the first importance, that is safety, and that should be without risk of injury. So scaffolds and ladders are the main parts of this construction industry. So safe and suitable scaffold should be provided and maintained as well. Safe means of access, property secured against inadvertent movement, then inadvertent movement, then constructed and uses in accordance with the national laws and regulations inspected by a competent person. Then lifting appliances and gear guidelines are given. Transport, earth moving materials, handling equipment, plant machineries, equipments and hand tools. So all these parameters or keywords are given by the Convention 167, and on the basis of these guidelines in India, that construction of the building and other construction worker rules have been published, and on the basis of that rules again some amendments are also included after the guidelines by this ILO, and on the basis of this building and other construction worker rules as well as this Convention 167, we are adopting the different safety guidelines or safety operating procedures in the construction industry. Then Convention 174, that is focusing on the prevention of major industrial accidents. So this is one of the major convention which is very much important as far as these conventions and recommendations are given, because in the history as far as the statistics is concerned in India as well as at the globe, there are many accidents which are related to the MH unit, major accident hazard unit, and that is why these prevention guidelines are very important for these MH units. So the scope and definition, general principle, responsibilities of the employer, identification, notification of the installations, arrangements of the installation, safety reports, accident reporting, then responsibilities of the authorities, offset emergencies, of the plan, then sighting of major accident hazards, installations, inspection staff for them, then rights of workers, then duties of workers, some representatives, then responsibilities of the exporting states, and the final provisions are covered under these conventions. So there are supplementing above conventions, some recommendations are also adopted. That is nothing but the exchange of information with ILO on safety management, then process safety, major accidents, lessons from near miss, technical and medical control measures and systems to compensate workers. So on the basis of these guidelines only, MSIC Rule 1989 has recommended some rules and some points have been mentioned. That is nothing but the on-site emergency plan, off-site emergency plan, safety reports, safety audit reports. So all these rules are recommended and made published through MSIC 1989 with the help of this or with the reference of this convention 174. So this is one of the example where we can understand how the accidents are happen, what are the hazardous substances, what are the conventions and recommendations are given by the ILO, and what are the acts and rules made under the guidelines of this ILO. That is some of the examples like Factory Act, then MSIC rule, and some other rules, right? So this is up till now we have discussed about the different conventions and recommendations as far as this occupational safety and health is concerned, and this is one of the example where we can understand how these MH units or MH convention is very important. So this is one of the example only, right? So some accidents like 60,000 inhabitants were even evacuated in the result of fire involving ammonium nitrate in France 1987. Then other fatalities occur in the Italy 1987. Then in Bulgaria, vinyl chloride explosion, 17 days. Then in fireworks, killed 11 peoples. In Philippines, then in 1986, chlorine leak, and these cases are only a sample of reported events. So after these accidents, after these fatalities, then what happened? Some major disasters that may include Bhopal gas tragedy in 1984, 3,000 plus people, then LPG Mexico, then that toxic chemical dioxin in Seveso, Italy, and human economic damage resulting from all these events and many others in news. So there are some major accident or major disasters happen in 84, in 76, and then some of the characteristics are concluded from all these accidents. So they were uncontrolled events involving fires, explosion, release of toxic substances, and causes extensive property and environmental damage or both. So these are the conclusions from these major disasters or the accidents. Then they have concluded that what exactly the major hazard is. The storage and use of flammable, explosive or toxic chemicals having the potential to cause such disasters are generally referred as major hazards. So these are the discussions, results and conclusions in the international labor conferences, international labor organization meetings, etc. This potential therefore is a function both of the inherent nature of the chemical and quantity that is present on the site. Then how to control these major hazards? So types of major accident that can be taken place, that is called as major hazard. An industrial activity requiring control over over and above those applied in normal factory operations. So these major hazards and major accidents is a separate category other than the regular category or the regular operations or the regular guidelines. So these control form an integral package, a major hazard control systems, which aims not only at preventing accident, but it mitigating the consequences of the accidents. Now, these are the different discussions on the basis of major disasters. ILO has developed and published several codes of practice for the control of major hazards. So this is the background for making one of the ILO convention, right? So what is that ILO code of practice? We have already discussed. What is the conventions and recommendations? We have already discussed. So these are the different guidelines provided by this ILO codes of practice, and on the basis of that, these are the some parameters which included in the conventions and recommendations. So they are going to focus on the manufacturing, construction, open cast mines, coal mines, iron steel industries, non-ferrous metals, shipbuilding, forestry, agriculture, etc. And some regulations are specific, that is related to the radiations, lasers, visual displays, chemicals, asbestos, airborne substances, and certain safety health and such measures are related to the occupational safety health management systems. Then some ethical guidelines are provided for the health surveillance, some recording and notifications of occupational incident and diseases, some protections of workers of the personal data, then safety health and work conditions of the in the transfer of technology to development countries, and then we can understand what is the need for this control of hazardous substances. So we have already discussed about these governing bodies, where it forms, what is the ILO office, what is meant by governing body, then different recommendations and conventions. Now, on the basis of this discussion, whatever the point we have discussed, that is nothing but the major industrial accidents. So, on the basis of major disaster, major accidents, there are some points related to the major industrial accidents, and then ILO decided that we have to prevent these major industrial accidents. For that purpose, we must go for some convention and recommendations, and that convention recommendation is nothing but the ILO 174, right? So these are the 12 elements included in this ILO code: general provisions, components of the major hazard control systems, general duties, prerequisites of the major hazard control systems, analysis of hazard and risk, control of the causes of major industrial accidents, safe operations of major hazard installation, then emergency planning, that may be on-site, that may be off-site, then information to the public concerning major hazard installation for the general information for during the emergency and after a major accident, then siting and land using planning, then reporting to the competent authorities, description of the installation process or substance, safety report should be made, and 12th point is implementation of the major hazard control systems, identification of major hazard installation, establishment of group experts, on-site emergency plan, off-site emergency plan, siting and land using planning, training of government inspector, preparation of checklist, inspection of installation, government inspector, inspection of installation by specialist, action following the evaluation of safety reports. Now you can understand these are the 12 elements, and some elements are provided or published by the ILO, and this is one of the example. So on the basis of this major disaster, on the basis of this major accidents, ILO has some discussions, some international labor conference, international labor meetings, and in that meeting all these disasters and these facts, these figures and the prevention techniques, how to prevent this accident or the major accident, how to avoid the repetition of these accidents, and after that discussion only this ILO has decided to go for the standard and then go for the recommendations. So this is one of the example how the process is for the ILO conventions. So whatever the ILO conventions and recommendations that we have discussed, for the occupational safety and health, and even other conventions and recommendations have been made from this process only, right? So this is one of the example only. So implementation in India on the basis of this major accident, hazards and disaster. So MSIC rule, that is 1989, have been made. Then Maharashtra factory rule, the rule is changed, and then SEMA rule has been adopted. So MSIC rule, that is the manufacture, storage and import of hazardous chemical rule 1989, and SEMA rule, that is Maharashtra factory control of industrial major accident hazard rule 2003 is adopted after these guidelines by the ILO, right? So these are the different points which are covered under this ILO, and this is the main site where from I have made this presentation, and you can refer this ILO website for all these functions, structures about the ILO, all these conventions and recommendations, then research publications, etc. Right? So you can ask the questions, whatever the questions or the difficulties you want to ask. Thank you.